You find those people who actually know how to get things done and inside a big organization, and you hold those people close, near, dear, and tight, because those are the people that actually will move the needle for you.
Welcome to the Schmidt List, the podcast for people dedicated to managing successful projects, developing impactful products, and building engaged teams. And now, here's your host, Kurt Schmidt.
All right, so Chaz, jMatt, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, Kent.
We're not editing that. I'm leaving that in.
The Kent Schmidt Show, everybody.
Yes. It is. It's Kent. So, starting with you, Chaz. Chaz, tell me about yourself. What do you do? How do you do what you do? How did you get into the wonderful world of marketing?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what I do, but we'll get there.
Well, that's part of the exploratory nature of the show.
It is. I am an integrated. No, I'm not. I'm not any of that. I'm a guy who got started in a career and has run it for a long time, and learned a lot from the experience. And so that's really what I'm trying to do today. Mm-hmm. And, I work with this guy over here.
Mm-hmm. Hi.
That's jMatt, and we have a company together called Riva Partners. And
yeah,
we can get into what that's about too, but. Think of me as an ad guy who made the transition to modern age.
That's good. How about you, jMatt? Are you an ad guy that transitioned to the modern age?
Oh, heavens, no. No. I'm a guy who toured in a band, found my way into corporate America at Target for a period of time, and came out the other side and found Chaz.
Yeah.
And then we found each other. Mm-hmm. We were brothers in arms.
Yeah. And then you founded
Riva Partners.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Riva. What is what are the typical people you work with? Tell me about some of the clients you work with. What stage are they in when they hire you?
When they want to go big, when the CEO has a big vision, it often is companies that have reached a certain revenue level and topped out. And so their model has exhausted itself, and they're looking, how do I jumpstart this and scale it up to the next thing that it could be? So we work with those people in those kinds of companies.
Mm-hmm. Anything I'll add to that.
All right.
I'd say we look for those rocket ship companies for CEOs with big visions and big appetites, or leadership teams. And then from a marketing, what is marketing today? We could talk about that for a while too. But really, that do want to grow, to Chaz's point, go to market fast, and figure out the best way to do it, and then build it. Where most companies either do strategy or the build. We do both. You
said earlier, Chaz, like that, you work with CEOs with this big vision and things, right? But I think one of the challenges I see is that they don't actually have a vision. It's just more. And the more is not a vision, right?
No, more is not a vision.
Well, that's going to make things difficult.
Yeah, well, there's more to it than more.
Okay.
Yeah, the vision is actually, and I've learned this in working with jMatt, is that you can identify people with vision, and it has a lot to do with their passion and what they're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. The difficulty, we find somebody like that, and they're really focused on that. They need people like us to say, okay, let us listen to this.
Unpack it.
Mm-hmm. Who wants to buy your idea? Which idea, product, whatever. Let's understand their lives, and let's figure out how to align those around things as deep and human as what values do you share, that you like a common ground that you believe. And what our job is to locate that and then find a way to say it where the response of the audience is, I totally believe that with all my heart, but I've never thought of it that way before. And it's that I've never thought of that way before that is the hook that gets you engaged with them.
To that point, though, if you had mentioned, you get pulled in when these companies are growing. So at some point there was a vision or something, right?
Right.
And then it's kind of flatlined. I mean, what do you see happens there? Is it just they get so big they lose focus, or what's the typical sort of scenario? I'm wondering, because I mean, again, like we do this here at Foundry, like we are helping people uncover like the why a lot. And I'm always wondering what other people's opinions are, and like how do people kind of lose the way on the original why and need to be pulled back, right?
I don't think it's, and jMatt,
go ahead.
Feel free. Okay. I don't think it's a loss of passion for their original vision. I mean, it's a point where most of these companies start without marketing, right? Mm-hmm. They're built around something else. I'm not talking about selling a marketing company here. They've got an idea about something in their industry that's new, and they build it, and they get success, and they sell it, and they get to a point where, like all businesses, you need to scale your story to the marketplace in a way that isn't encumbered by human capital. So you just need to be better at telling your story
and having it told for you.
Yeah.
Well, because the times that you work with folks, I mean, it's usually a pretty big jump too, right? I mean, one of your case studies is like 30 million to 110 million.
Yeah.
What was some of the work that was super important to make that actually happen? Like, was there just the one key that you found, oh, this unlocks that, oh, done?
Well, it eventually got to that, but I mean, the way that we work is it starts with a real look at the digital landscape and the ecosystem that the company competes in. So we measure your company against your competitors and then rank your ability essentially to get in front of the audience that you want to reach from a technical standpoint. How well are you doing email marketing? How well are you doing search? How well are you doing social? So that we create a really clear idea of like, okay, this group's doing really well to the left of our graph and you're over to the right, and we want to move you to the left. So here's what we need to change to make that happen. That's the first half of the question. And the second is, okay, if we can get to the marketplace, because we're not competing with Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas, which is one of our clients was competing in a category against them, and we're like, you're not going to win. But over here, we found really disorganized digital ecosystems, no competitors are showing up. How big is this opportunity? And we look at search as a proxy for demand. And in that case, we found 26 million searches globally per year that none of the competitive set was reaching. It was 10-year-old information from WebMD. So that's where we start.
Sure.
More money here. Now, what's the message that we need to connect to the audience that we can reach? What do they believe? And that's where we go.
If I'm like a product manager at a company like a Target or at even a small company, where's some of the initial things? You mentioned search, right? Yeah. So what are some tips from you folks on ways that I could start maybe initially uncovering some opportunities that I could bring to my boss?
Yeah, where we look is we look in search. We look for people who are trying to answer questions, and they're in need of some information. They're trying to get an answer. The other thing is, and it's very different, is we look at conversations that are naturally happening around topic areas in social, how people are connecting on ideas, just to get a lay of the land. First, what is the audience doing? How are they behaving, and where are they at? Because unless we're following them, we're not working.
Right.
All right. Anything to add?
Yeah, for one client, we did a media audit. They wanted to win a new category. They wanted to create a new category. I think if Kleenex rolled out today and they were a facial tissue company and they wanted to create Kleenex as a category. But just understanding who's owning what, and given that there's just a natural decay in media when articles are written and they tend to just fall, down in the rank over time. Where is that opportunity? What can you find around facial tissue or whatever it is, whatever category you want to own or wherever you're taking your product, and to see what's out there. I mean, the opportunity is so great to understand who's winning and what. We have a client who wants to be in the game of on demand, And so we did a lot of research around that in other areas of other categories of on-demand. That gave us a really good idea of the opportunity if they should even have that as part of their name, for what they were trying to build.
Right.
And that was when we came to...
Because it's positioning at that point, right?
It is. That's exactly right. And we hear the word on demand, you think Netflix, Uber, whatever it is that you conjure up, but it comes with baggage. And for our client, we're like, okay, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Can we use this to our advantage? And what's the opportunity? And actually, in the end, we all came back around to it and said, that's the category we can own. It's in Europe right now, but it's not in America. And in the world we're playing in, which is health insurance, we could be the first company to own on-demand health insurance.
What's interesting, I'll just add to that came from looking at behavior online.
Sure.
And seeing that we were already coming against the on-demand category in search. We owned that page, on-demand health insurance, and they were about to ditch that name, and we're like, no.
Please don't.
Everything we are going to do is going to ladder up to this idea.
I'd like to talk about the politics side of change. In that sort of change management, change, the politics around change, what are some of the ways that you found success in getting the positioning to be listened to?
I think all of us around this table will probably agree we were a little bit of a lone wolf, or we wouldn't have had the path that we've all taken. So how do you be a lone wolf or someone who really strikes out to bring new change in a big organization when they're effectively set up to not allow you to bring big change? The analogy I use about my time inside a Fortune 50 company was me walking across the room with a candle and everybody wanted to blow it out. And I just wanted to carry the candle to the other side of the room and light the path forward, right?
Yeah.
These fundamentals, which they're going to sound like they're out of a book, but I live and die by them, is you do have to use corporate speak, bring others along and understand what they are ultimately trying to drive to as well. And that yes and is 100% pretty much how I operated and pulled off every innovative project. I'd say, yes, that's a great idea. And here's how we could bring it forward. But let me understand and hear them first every step of the way. I'd always say, what do you want to get out of this project? Where are we going? And how do you think it would be a success? So I fundamentally understood where they were all the way up to the VP, the SVP, and then ultimately the CMO, and then the CEO if it was about generating revenue, but I was in marketing, so it was typically about, execute something amazing that the New York Times and brand awareness, whatever.
Yeah.
But I had to know what everybody needed to get so that it lit out my path to ultimately deliver something very innovative. Without, in my case, and I'll speak openly, I worked at Target and delivered some projects that had never, ever been done before. A reality TV show, a first ever Twitter inspired runway performance using models in real time, talking about everyday food products. I mean, just these really crazy, which would by Target standards be avant-garde today. It required buy-in at every single step of the process. And I had to clearly understand and then be able to articulate to them how this was ultimately serving their needs as well. People want those things. They just don't want to openly admit it. They're afraid to put their careers on the line. So I always owned it, too. That was one of the other things. I just said, look, if I need to go tomorrow and fall on the sword for you guys, it's worth it, only if I believed it. But that's what it took for me to pull off some of those projects and to be in the C-suite pitching big ideas that push the boundaries for a brand that has a very clear red, white, and round playbook. And I mean, you're trying to get college for I worked in college in particular, and back to college category, and making college students think that Target's cool and not their mom's brand is not an easy task unless you're willing to meet them where they are. And so I fought tooth and nail to get in those endemic environments. So a lot of my work was having my ear to the ground and following my heart, while then also delivering that to category managers who had the money, or the product team or whatever, who had to figure out how to make this all come together so that it still felt like Target. But I had to understand what their needs and wants were. So anyway, that was my long path. But ultimately, that's what it takes. If you are a bit of a lone wolf in a big organization. It's not an easy task, but you have to fundamentally understand who else is coming along or needs to be a partner, and then work through it every step of the way, or it just, somebody will implode because there's always somebody above you, unless you're the CEO, and then you're not even listening to this podcast. No offense, but the truth is that, but it is true, and you have to have a clear sense of that, and then, you know, as they say, work cross-functionally, but that is the essence of how you pull it together. And then you find those people who actually know how to get things done and inside a big organization, and you hold those people close, near, dear, and tight, because those are the people that actually will move the needle for you.
The thing that this starts with, whether it's inside or outside, and moving ideas, is it starts with listening. That's what you said, like, listen to what everybody needs out of this. And in the case of marketing, it's like, what do the really passionate users need first? And then from there, we work to how do we take that to volume?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But that's what I find interesting, going back to our original discussion, because I think this is where those two things meet. Because modern marketing, in my opinion, is listening, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas before, it was just direct talking at you, right?
I'm going to use that. Is that okay?
Yeah, please. So again, it's thinking about, when I work with some of these large like companies that have they're so used to having to be the smartest person on the shelf, if you know what I mean. Like, like they know exactly what flavor and digital product you want. They've known it forever, so they did their versions of testing and things like that. But eventually, it was whatever they were going to produce. That's what you got. Whereas today, that sort of whole flip on the consumer-driven side of things, I think that's really where this has changed, because I think it goes from all the way from the vision, the product idea, everything, all the way to how you talk about it and speak about it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to reiterate what jMatt said. Those people that you described there, we don't work with them because they don't need what we have, what we offer.
Right.
We are not a shop that comes in and we'll produce your idea. Mm-hmm. We're a partner that comes in and says, we'll help you get you where you want to go, but let us control the marketing.
Yeah, and I think actually a lot of, and nothing against them, but I think a lot of marketing companies are built that way, to just tell us what you want and we'll do the thing, right? So I think it is a challenging conversation. We run into it at Foundry too. A lot of people are like, hey, how much for this app? And we're like, you don't need an app. And they're like, what? Don't you want to build an app for me and charge me lots of money? No. No, I don't.
Same word. We have
because you don't need it.
Response. Yeah.
Yeah. So then let's jump back to, so recently I was having a conversation with a colleague, and to your experience exactly, jMatt, I think I would love your insight here. So big, challenging, cool idea, new idea being brought through, and it's going through all of its checks and balances within the org, and then it hits up against in a meeting with this one person who's just like, this is a dumb idea. And this person, I'm guessing, and I'm thinking to myself, like, when you would mention like that whole Twitter live runway thing and stuff, was there ever a time where you, like, the gas is going, everything's rolling, and then there's just that one stakeholder that needs to like approve this thing or provide this thing that's just like, why are we doing this? And just takes all the wind out of the sails. And it's also like, I think the other thing that I find discouraging with it is that because this is a person who's either a peer or a colleague or something that is not being solution oriented. They're just like, I don't like your idea, and just shut it down. I'm guessing you're nodding a lot. Again, to your point, you build up your coalition, right? You take them with you and all that stuff, but you still are going to run into landmines. Like, how did you navigate that?
It's like PTSD over here. That's great. Great question. I was one of my all-time favorite moments, it might be my favorite moment in my tenure at Target, is when I heard the word no 14 times from one person for no reason. And I just flat out, no, we can't do this. And every time I asked why, I got 13 different reasons. It just was amazing, but just fundamentally didn't want to do it. And I'll tell you what it was.
They were like verbally swatting away your thing.
I'm not even exaggerating. I wish I was exaggerating. It was 13 times. And but I was clearly passionate about this idea. And what it was they were merging 2 marketing teams at an offsite, an all-day offsite at the American Swedish Institute. And I was asked to kick it off by hosting, giving the opening address. And I wanted to do it with a bang. And so I had an idea that I couldn't shake. And it was to hire a senior citizen choir called the Plymouth Rockets, or the Rockers. Anyway, 65-year-old plus come in and sing Lean on Me into We Shall Overcome. And I wanted to bust them in. And I was adamant that we could find $1,500 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds
to like, rent a bus and drive.
It sounds pretty reasonable cost, I'm sure.
So they were so excited when they heard that Target was interested in having them perform for them. The marketing team, come on, this is the engine that drives the bullseye, the heartbeat, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I heard no 13 times that it wasn't in. But I'm like, this is absurd, and it's going to be a surprise. So your question is how. So I asked multiple people in this scenario if I was being unreasonable, or what I was hoping to achieve was out of line, so that I was, just had perspective. Okay, am I just so passionate about something that I'm...
Right, you're being blind to it.
Am I being blind to it? So I up and down on both sides, both people who sided with no and yes, I said, just want to fundamentally understand, because I'm nearing the point where I will pay my own money to make this happen. But again, I was very passionate about this idea. The solution isn't maybe the best solution, but I went back to one of those people who get things done. And I said, look, here's what I'd like to do. I said, I know you manage a lot of different funds and a lot of things move in and out. And I think it's really important for the first time that we're merging these 2 groups of people together, that we have something really special that's very human and moves us beyond. He bought into my vision. He said, I got you covered. Fine. Again, this isn't, by the book, but it is in corporate America, because it's the only way things get done. It's not only who do you know, but who believes and buys into you as a person. And you're like, yeah, you know what? I'll go to bat. I'll move some money over. I got you covered. Got the buses. 70 senior citizens came in their bright red lipstick and poofed hair and red jackets, and they sang, and the whole place wept.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just wept. And it couldn't have been, I know to this day that it was a big moment for a lot of people, but in a memorable moment, I should say. But most specifically, the one person came up to me and apologized and said that was probably one of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed. And, I'm sorry I made it difficult. Hope you can forgive me, et cetera, et cetera. I said, that's fine. I said, I still don't fundamentally understand why. And she tried to explain to me that there was, it was by doing it by the book or something. And that's fine. I said, I completely respect that you were hardline, but I just couldn't understand why it was so important. And ultimately, we ended up working on multiple projects moving forward.
That was probably a good...
Respectfully. So I guess my advice is, don't back down. If you really see something and you're passionate about it and you want to make it come alive, fight for it until you exhaust every possibility, because that actually fortified our relationship. And for me, inside this organization, it elevated. That moment was not only very personal to me and meaningful, but it elevated my opportunity and status, and I don't know, probably helped with my own promotion into Target. I shortly thereafter got promoted, and because we have senior leadership there, and they all were like, that was amazing, and no one will ever know outside of the 2 of us. And when I see her, every now and again walking down across the street, that moment that we whatever, and maybe she's already forgotten, because to her it was just saying no, and to me it was a really big deal. So
yeah,
I always encourage people, even inside corporations, if you have life force and you want to bring it. Just find a way and find those people who can buy in and and support you, but that's why you need your people.
I think even CEOs of companies like expressing their vision, you have some employees even that are like, I don't know about that.
How can you not? I mean, it's especially the bigger the organization, the harder, and the more out of touch you are just because you work with a cabinet of people around you at bigger organizations. Mm-hmm. So you're hearing from one point of view, and when you go down a layer or go down a second layer, those that are on the front lines, that you have such a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And that was my experience at Target. And I was very fortunate to be both literally digging the trench, standing above the trench, and then flying over the trench.
At the same time.
I got to see all three levels, and they're vastly different perspectives.
With that message that jMatt shared, where do I start by pushing on that change? I've got a good idea. I've got maybe a new product idea, maybe not even something as big, maybe just a new process I think we should do. Like, where should I start? Like, I'm new to the company, and like, how do I start navigating those waters? Like, what should I be doing?
Well, my experience is very different than jMatt's. I've never worked inside a large corporation like that. The closest I came was working for the fourth largest advertising agency in the world, but I was in an office that was maybe 50 people. Where I always started was with my boss. Mm-hmm. And I think, there's two aspects to it. One is if you're really talking about starting politically, you're going to have to cross that threshold to get this thing done. And I always viewed my role, and this happened in the very first agency that I worked for. It was called Kaufman Stewart. It was 8 people. I was hired with no experience along with my writer. Our partnership, we were hired with no experience because the agency was sold from one owner to 2 of the people that worked there. One was my age, and at this time I was 27. And the other was in his early 40s. I got the opportunity to partner with somebody who already had 25 years of experience doing this as his right-hand man. And so when I had an idea, they encouraged me to come in and just say what it was. Long story short, that gentleman retired. I went to work for his partner, who again was my age. I walked into his office one day and I said, John, I have, this thing we're working on for this particular client? I have an idea. And he just started smiling. He looked down and started shaking his head. Like, here we go again. And I said, hang on for a second, John. And I sat down in front of him and I said, here's why I think you hire me. You hire me for me to come in and give you my ideas and tell you what I think. What you do with it is your business. And he looked at me and said, yeah, what's on your mind? And we went from there. So my whole experience has been around developing a relationship with my boss. Now, that hasn't always worked out. Sometimes the boss is actually the roadblock. For me, then it becomes, then this isn't a path for me.
Yeah. And
I need to move. We now start a lot of relationships knowing that we have a team of people that we can call on. Mm-hmm. And so we bring our ideas, but we've already got a fully formed group around this idea, and it just gives it more weight. So that's my experience in dealing with new ideas and where do you take them.
See, I like that you were intentional, that you went in and said, like, this is why I have these ideas and this is why, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're kind of setting up, like, it's my role to do that, other than just where I've seen other people, they just assume that you know that. And so why are you being a dick right now? Right? Like, why are you saying no to me 16 times? This is my job, is to like make this, to do these things. And I think that's sometimes where I think people think, well, that's just too simple. It's like,
you got to start somewhere, Yeah. And again, jMatt, maybe you could take that and say, from your perspective, into Target, where would you start?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on that. I led a team called The Garage, which was for that. So I was that safe place to make dangerous things. I was tasked because I mean, I don't know why, the lone wolf over here.
Sure.
Yeah, you can have that room and go make some stuff, and then if we like it, we'll let you come out with it and sell it up the chain, and then we'll take credit for it. That's how it worked.
Yeah, well, that's good.
But that really was it. And so I looked for the outliers.
Yeah.
Every Monday, we'd come in between 7 and 9:30 a.m. People would come to work and early. And pitch ideas in the garage, and we'd pin them to the board, and then we'd say, great, and we'd prioritize which ones we were going to put energy behind. And once that got traction, we had 4 different projects going, and some of them were just fantastic. I mean, like, really exciting. Just how would you creatively solve business problems?
Right.
Like, for example, I don't think this will get me in trouble because they're not doing it, but I really, one of the ideas of many that came across my desk, and I did not come up with it, but was the idea of treating Target's floor in their store more like American Idol. So they have PD&D. Was it product design and development?
Yeah.
I don't even, is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
PD&D?
Yeah.
And so let's say there's a engineer. Say they have a team of 500-600 engineers and makers and dreamers and thinkers over there, right? It's amazing that are building all of their lines, that they're in-store brands, own brands. And let's say you had a designer named Jenny, and Jenny made this amazing line of clothing. It should be Jenny in her photo, and we should do a whole, like, Jenny. Like let's put her out on the floor with her sweater. This is Jenny, part of PD&D, and start to build the next, instead of top model, top designer, right? But literally be here, in headquarters designing these things, because they've gone back to that playbook. This was a few years back, so they did that essentially, but they did it through Goodfellow and all these other ones and outsourced it. I was thinking more in-house, but they've essentially done that idea. But for me, I was like, that would be amazing. Like, I really like Blake's line of jeans. Fantastic. Now I'm buying all Blake stuff.
Sure.
But then maybe Blake moves on and leaves Target, and you bring up the next Blake, but you have more of a bullpen mindset and more like a farm team that you're internal, like you're creating your next great thing. Anyway, the reality is if you don't have a place like that and you can't seek out inside your organization that is for outliers, or there are organizations, because there often are, innovation, whatever, places for you to try sprints, and this is your world that you probably know better than I would definitely say whatever form is best received, deck, video, whatever, just build, make it, and share it out with whoever your mentor is, and to Chaz's point, boss, but say, here's what I'm aspiring to do. I have this idea and I want to start spinning it up. But I always looked for other people who had the same sort of interests, who wanted to make stuff too, who are essentially in a big organization and we're moonlighting at night in other ways. I would find those people, and there were a lot actually inside Target that are now freelance or own their own companies. But Target was a stop along their journey, just like it was for me. And we would almost be like this Dead Poets Society mindset where we would get together and be like, what are you working on?
Right.
Yeah, I'm building up posters for bands. Cool. What could we do that would be cool for Target? And we created some campaign ideas that eventually, like in their in-store video screens, we created animations that ultimately made it on those, which then were so well received, they were then repurposed for regional TV and then repurposed for national TV, which is crazy because it literally started off with just me playing with some illustrators in the back room, and then we started to outsource it. So long story short, I think you got to find, again, similar-minded people. You can't be afraid to put your ideas down, flush it out so that there's actually a little bit more of a baked cookie for them to respond to, and then also be prepared for them to completely shut you down. And then you say, great, who else can I talk to about this? Because the buck doesn't stop with them, because you're all renting a chair and you're not going to be at Target forever or wherever that organization is. And I think that you got to feed that light that's inside of you. If you're passionate and you have an idea, you got to do it inside a big corporation or outside of it. You can't stop.
Yeah,
you can't.
Big vision.
Yeah.
People with big vision, you need to sell your ideas.
You have to, and
whether you're a CEO or whether you're inside a corporation, large corporation.
No, you're not, in this world of constant change. That's one of the best things about the world we're living in now. Now I know we're all of a certain age, but if I'm talking to anybody who's south of 40, I mean, you're coming up just one of the most amazing times ever to have an idea and have all the resources and means to make it. It is one of the most brilliant times to be alive, period.
True.
Like, just, it is. If you have an idea, that you're one Google search away from having somebody help you figure out how to make it, or for a YouTube video to tell you how to make it. It's really stunning. It really is. If you have there's nothing holding you back. You don't have to go Encyclopedia Britannica, Dewey Decimal System, nothing. You could just
Right.
type it into your flipping phone,
Rotary?
and you start to get
Rotary phone.
I know but you can begin your journey immediately. That is really only you holding yourself back. And even your position at the company, don't let that hold you back. You can make stuff and pitch it all day long. So it's incumbent on you, and that is your perspective that matters the most.
I like that idea of encouraging people, like, see it through as far as you possibly can, because sure, maybe it doesn't stick there, but you carry that with you, and you can take it to the next job or the next thing, and be like,
you will take it with you, that whole experience, and you
Right.
got to build on that.
right.
And I'll add, there's nothing more enjoyable than somebody coming up to you and saying, hey, I have an idea and I'm working on it. Do you mind giving me your feedback, and giving them the power? I would say 10 out of 10 times somebody's like, yeah, come over here. Let me see. What do you got? And they show it to them. And regardless, that right there, you're just inviting them into your world, and you're saying, I'm trying to figure this out, and I thought you might be able to you'd have an interesting perspective.
It's coalition building.
It's coalition building. If you want to, again, it's all about you pay it forward, they pay it forward for you, and that's the currency inside big organizations. Thanks for helping me on that project. How can I help you out? That's it. Well, I have a passion project I've been working on after hours. Oh, hey, Mr. Editor, do you mind editing this video together for me? Absolutely. Yeah, I got you.
I'm on
Great.
board. I understand your vision, and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's
Right.
how things get made when you don't have money.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? Great, I'll do it. I'll be there. I'll move your couch. Fine. Can you edit this video for me? It's that simple. But that's I've been in bands for 20 years and made 10 records with not spending any money. So
Right.
that is the currency. But I've done it on the backs of really helping other people out, landing them a job, literally moving stuff, catering their events. I don't care. I'm like, how can I be of service? And genuinely asking, and then delivering. And then conversely, they help me out. And when you don't have money, time in your own hustle are your best friends.
If I'm listening to the show and I'm like, I like these guys, I want them to stop by and check out how they can help us grow, where's a good place to find out more? And what's usually the first steps in your process? I'm guessing it's just casual conversation, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a conversation. We have a natural curiosity into listening to what other people are trying to get done. And, again, experience helps us understand the questions that we need to ask to get to the information that we can use to help them get there.
Cool.
So, if you want to find us, we have riva.partners, RIVA.partners. That's our website.
Okay.
And all of our contact information is there. You can also review our profiles on LinkedIn. Mine is Chas, CHASPORTER. So LinkedIn, just type that in. And jMatt, what's yours?
jMatt Keil. That's JMATTKEIL. And we would love to buy you a cup of coffee.
Well, thank you both for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Greg.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for listening to The Schmidt List. If you want to learn more about how Foundry accelerates innovation, check out foundrymakes.com. And if you'd like me to speak about establishing a growth mindset at your conference or with your team, drop me a note at kurt@foundrymakes.com. Oh, and the next time you're on the internet, head to iTunes and leave the show a review. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, because sharing is caring. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show, and I hope you have a fantastic week.